Welcome to OLC 4.0, sorry. Term 1B, Class 4, Unit 1, and we're going to work on assignments number 3, 4, and 5 today, and it is Monday, November 20th. All right, quick review of a simple sentence. A simple sentence must have 3 elements: a subject, which tells you who or what, a pronoun, or a noun phrase, which includes adjectives with the noun, a predicate, which is a verb plus the other connected words that explain what's happening or the state or condition of the subject. And it has to express a complete thought. So if I just said John is, well, there's a subject, John, and there's a predicate, is, but it's not really a complete thought. I would have to finish it. John is coming over. Now it's a complete sentence. Was raining as hard as you can imagine? Okay, there's no subject. And the subject is very simple here. It would just be, it was raining as hard as you can imagine. But it needs to be there, right? Once we add it, now we have a complete sentence. All of his friends from school. Okay, we've got the subject, but there's no predicate. It doesn't tell us what they're doing. All of his friends from school were going swimming. So the most common mistake I see with a simple sentence is a sentence like this here: was raining as hard as you can imagine. And we've just dropped off the subject, and it's a very, tiny little subject, just the word it. It's easy to forget that it needs to be there. Okay, so going on from simple sentences, when you join 2 simple sentences together, you create a compound sentence, and you can join them with coordinating conjunctions. And the coordinating conjunctions are for, and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. And we generally put a comma right in front of the coordinating conjunction. The 2 simple sentences have now become one big sentence. And sometimes discussing this can get kind of confusing. So one way we try to make it clearer is to use the word clause. A clause is a group of words that contains a subject and a verb, and it can sometimes stand alone as a sentence by itself. So if you were talking about a specific sentence, you could say, well, this clause has that, and this clause has the other thing. And it just gives you a way to kind of refer to the parts of the sentence without saying this sentence, which now no longer is a sentence, which is kind of confusing. All right. A compound sentence contains 2 smaller sentences, or what we now call 2 clauses. A clause is a group of words that contains a subject and a verb. It can sometimes stand by itself like a simple sentence, in which case it's called an independent clause because it can stand independently as a sentence by itself. Later on, we'll learn about dependent clauses, which can't stand by themselves. So a compound sentence has 2 independent clauses, and they're joined by the conjunction. So I love to go out dancing is independent clause number 1. I also love to stay home reading a book is independent clause number 2. And we've joined them with the comma and then the word but, because these are contrasting, right? So different conjunctions have a different type of meaning. They do join sentences, but they do add an extra layer of meaning a lot of times as well. So, for example, I'm just going to make this a little bit bigger if I can. It seems a little bit tiny to me. There we go. That seems a little better. Okay. We join compound sentences using coordinating conjunctions. There's only a few of them, and we've talked about them. You can remember them using the acronym FANBOYS. F for, A for and, N for nor, B for but, O for or, Y for yet, and S for so. I want to go see Grandma, for this Christmas is her first without Grandpa. I love to go to the movies, or I could also go out to dinner. I do not want to go skiing, nor do I wish to go skating. John played hockey in the winter, and he played baseball in the summer. I hoped to go to the concert, but I hadn't saved enough money. He refused to do his homework, so his parents turned off the internet. He wanted to ask her out, yet he was afraid she would turn him down. So those are some conjunctions. We're going to look at how the conjunctions change their meaning. Okay, so for example, For implies that one clause is the reason or the result of the other clause. I want to go see grandma for, the reason is this Christmas is her first without grandpa. So also has the idea of giving a reason. He refused to do his homework, so because of this, his parents turned off the internet. And just joins the two clauses or ideas and generally gives them equal weight. So John played hockey in the winter and he played baseball in the summer. It doesn't really change the meaning of the sentence at all. Or gives you a choice between the two clauses. I love to go to the movies, or I could also go out to dinner, right? If you're talking to somebody about what your plans were, you're giving them these two choices, the movies or dinner. Nor is kind of an old-fashioned word. You don't hear it as often, but it is a negative word and it's a negative choice. So not or, it's nor. I do not want to go skiing, nor do I wish to go skating. I don't want to do either of those two things. And then but contrasts things. It may be kind of a negative reason, like I hoped to go to the concert, but I haven't saved enough money. Yet is very similar. And there's a lot of, I was trying to read about this. There's some controversy over it. Some people feel like yet and but mean the exact same thing. Some people feel like there's a slight difference, okay? It still is implying a contraction or a contradiction between the two sentences, not a contraction, sorry. Some people feel like yet is a little more formal or a little more old-fashioned. I had a few people say they thought it had an element of surprise, but I'm not really sure I agree with. I would say it's old-fashioned. Now, one of the reasons I think that yet is not used as often is because yet also has a second meaning. And the meaning is that something hasn't happened, but is expected to happen. Like, I haven't got my marks back yet, right? There's our sentence. In this case, it's not joining anything. It's just implying that it hasn't happened yet, but it's at the moment, but it's going to happen, right? It's not joining anything. It's an adverb describing when an action might or might not happen. I think people are more familiar with this usage, which is why they're not usually using it to join. Because if that usage and that meaning, you couldn't join two clauses together, okay? So it's simply a word that has multiple meanings, which is very common in English. Okay. So let's try it. We're going to look at these possible compound sentences and decide, have we joined them together correctly or have they been done incorrectly? I can't wait to eat dinner, comma, so I can go to the movie. So let's see, I've got a clause at the beginning. I've got my subject, I. Can't wait to eat. There's my verb phrase. Over here, I've got a new subject, I. Can go is my verb phrase. And I've joined it with a comma and a coordinating conjunction. So that one is correct. She loves going shopping, comma. She is excited to pick up new clothes. So she is my subject. Loves is my verb or my predicate. She is my subject again, and is excited is my verb. I've got a comma, but you know what I haven't done? I haven't added a coordinating conjunction. I should have one right there. So this one is incorrect. If I saw this, I would have to mark it wrong, okay? He had waited all summer to get on the school football team, for he could barely sleep the night before tryouts. All right, so let's see. He is my subject. Had waited is my predicate or my verb phrase here. He again is my subject. Could barely sleep is my verb phrase. I've got a comma. I do have my conjunction. The only thing is, I don't need a capital there. It would have had a capital in the original sentence, but now that I'm joining them and it's part of a bigger sentence, we don't have capital letters in the middle of a sentence. So I need to have changed that. Okay. Now I've fixed it. I'm going to put it back just so I have it for next time, but it was incorrect, basically. Okay. First, we moved to a small town, and later we moved back to the big city. Is that correct or incorrect? Well, we've got our subject, we. Moved is our verb. We've got our subject again, we, and moved again. We've got them joined with and later, which is fine, and a comma. So this is correct. This is just fine. It's a beautiful compound sentence here. And this one, I am not interested in trying out for football, nor am I interested in playing hockey. Well, I've got my subject of I am not interested in trying out. There's my verb, long verb phrase. Nor am I interested. Okay, so they've reversed the subject, but it's there. And my verb phrase is there. And I've got my conjunction, but they haven't got the comma. There should be a comma right there. So as it stands, this has been done incorrectly. So they're a little bit fussy. You have to be kind of mindful of that. So we are going to move on to assignment number 3. This is one about communication skills. And you know what, I'm going to, let me see if I can do this real quickly. Hang on a second. Can I make it on slideshow? I was going to do that. Oh, hang on, slideshow. Let's see if it'll let me do it here. Okay, awesome. So you would read this, following instructions. How important is it to you? So I'm going to decide that it's very, very important to me. Listening skills. How important is that? What have I done? Oh, okay. Conversational skills. Giving feedback. Communicating with the public. Conflict resolution skills. That's basically like solving problems. Negotiation skills, which could be something like policemen using in a hostage situation, or it could be lawyers negotiating a deal, or businessmen negotiating a merger. Interview skills, which could be journalists or teachers or writers. All sorts of people use interview skills. And training skills. So these are mine. Those don't have to be the same ones. You could pick whatever you like. And it isn't whether you think you're good at it, it's whether you think it's important. So for example, you might not feel like negotiation skills are super important in your life or in your job, or communicating with the public. Maybe you don't have a job where you're really communicating with the public. So everybody would place a different importance on these skills. Then down here, we have written communication skills. We have spelling skills, grammar, using punctuation correctly, writing email messages, using words effectively, using techniques of style correctly, writing routine and pleasant letters and memos, writing unpleasant letters and memos, like think about complaints and things like that, I guess, writing to persuade, giving someone an opinion and trying to get them to take an action, writing short reports, less than 3 pages, writing formal reports, more than 3 pages. And then we have diversity or multicultural communication skills, cultural awareness, second language skills, nonverbal communication, verbal communication. So nonverbal is without words, verbal is with words. Communicating ideas clearly to different audiences. And it kind of finishes on electronic communications. This is on the next page. Use of email, use of Facebook, and cell phone usage, including texting. Now, this is so simple that a lot of people don't even realize it actually is an assignment. It is. It's worth 10 marks. All you have to do is what I just did. Circle wherever you think it is important and send it in to me. It does not matter to me what you've chosen, right? There's no right or wrong for this. Everybody has their own opinion. That's fine. Take a photo. Make sure you attach it. Don't just put it in the body of the email. Attach it and send it to me by way of student.work@nnec.on.ca. Okay. After you finish this checklist, take a look at it. Is there anything that you marked as important, but feel like you're not very good at and you'd want to get better at? Because that might become a literacy goal. And in assignment 5, which is coming up, you need to pick a literacy goal. And this checklist is one way you can do it. For example, if I look through my checklist and I checked that I thought email is pretty important, but I feel like I'm not very good at writing emails, then that becomes a possible literacy goal I can use for assignment number 5. Or maybe I picked that, I'm pretty good at writing pleasant letters, but I'm really not so good at writing the unpleasant letters. And I've got to do that sometimes. So maybe I want to make that a literacy goal. Everybody's going to have different literacy goals because everybody's got a different life, different job, different skills. So I can't possibly pick your literacy goals for you. You are the only one that can decide what is important and what you need to work on. Okay. Now, assignment 4 is the same kind of thing. Okay. It is a checklist about your temperament. Now, I want to mention, they don't mention this for some reason. This is one based on the Myers-Briggs personality test, which we're going to look at. It's very commonly used all over the place. It's very, very common in work. Sometimes some workplaces, like in big corporations, will give people a Myers-Briggs personality test to make sure that the kind of job they're going for are the kind of job that they're naturally suited for. So there's basically 4 main categories. The first one is energy. Now, they're saying energy directed. I wouldn't say where is it directed, but I would say where do you get it from, right? Extroverts, the big idea is they get lots of energy from being with other people. Introverts get more energy by themselves, okay? So all you're doing is you're looking at this assignment, you're looking at the 2 pairs of statements and deciding which one sounds more like you. So extroverts have high energy, introverts have quiet energy. I've said that I have quiet energy. Extroverts talk more than they listen. Introverts listen more than they talk. Well, in that case, I'm pretty talkative. Extroverts think out loud. Introverts think quietly inside their heads. I tend to talk out loud. Extroverts act and then think. Introverts think and then act. I tend to think a lot before I take actions. Introverts feel comfortable being alone. Extroverts like to be around people a lot. This is a hard one. I could choose either one of those. I kind of wing it and put comfortable being alone, but I could choose either one. Prefer a public role or prefer to work behind the scenes. I kind of prefer to work behind the scenes. Can sometimes be easily distracted or has good powers of concentration. I can concentrate pretty well. Prefer to do lots of things at once or prefer to focus on one thing at a time. I prefer to focus on one thing at a time. I will point out, sometimes I get distracted easily though, and I do end up focusing on lots of things at once, but this is what I prefer, so that's what I circled. Extroverts are outgoing and enthusiastic. Introverts are self-contained and reserved. And I don't know, this one is another one where I could have put it there or I could have put it over there. Oh, so because I have more on the introvert side, I chose introvert. And that is all you would do. Okay, I'm gonna escape to get out of there. Okay, hang on. Next slide. This is about kind of how you interact with the world. Some people use their senses. That's what they're talking about, the sensors. Some people rely more on intuition. Now, really, we all use a little bit of both, right? I don't think there's anybody who only relies on their senses, and there's probably not anybody who only relies on their intuition, but we can lean strongly one way or the other. So sensors tend to notice the facts, details, and realities of the world around them, whereas people who are intuitives are more interested in connections and relationships between facts, as well as the meaning or possibilities of the information. Sensors tend to be practical and literal people who trust past experiences, and they often have good common sense. Intuitives tend to be imaginative, theoretical people who trust their hunches and pride themselves on their creativity. So again, I'm not going to read them all, but you would go back and forth. You look at one, look at the other, and choose which one you think, okay? When you get finished, look at which one has more sensor or more intuitives, circle which more. Now, the next part is how do you come to conclusions? Now, the next one is called thinkers versus feelers. And again, everybody thinks, everybody feels, there's no question about that. What it comes down to though is when you're making a decision, do you rely on logic? Like if you make a list of reasons and you look at the reasons and you pick the one that has more reasons, well, that's a very logical way to decide. Whereas somebody who's a feeler might spend some time imagining the 2 situations and imagining how things would look, and they would go with whichever felt more right. So it isn't about, how much you think or how much you feel. It's which one you use to make decisions mostly, right? Obviously, some of us are going to use feeling more in, say, our family, friends, and relationship side, and we're probably going to use thinking more in our work side, but it's not 100% split both ways. So thinkers make decisions based primarily on objective and impersonal criteria, what makes the most sense and what is logical. Feelers make decisions based primarily on their personal values and how they feel about the choices. So thinkers tend to be cool, analytical, and are convinced by logical reasoning. Feelers tend to be sensitive, empathetic, and are compelled by existing circumstances and a constant search for harmony. Oh, sorry, I'm about to cough. Hang on a second. My apologies. Sometimes talking so much kind of triggers a coughing reflex for me here. Okay. So again, you pick the two sides and you decide which one you have more of. And then the last one is judging versus perceiving. And I want to talk about this one because it isn't, sometimes judging, for example, has a very negative connotation, but it's really more about like, judges are people who like to have things decided. They want things to be done and figured out and complete in a sense. Whereas perceivers really, they like to have all their options open. They don't want to commit to one choice necessarily. It's more about how much you kind of how open you are to ambiguity in a sense to me. So I don't want you to get stuck on the word judges because that has kind of a negative connotation, but it isn't necessarily negative if you look at it, right? Things like taking responsibility seriously, paying attention to time, trying to finish projects, see the need for rules, like to make plans and stick with them, that kind of thing. It also has a tiny little section that finishes on the next page. I don't know why they didn't just work to make it fit on the same page, but just that last little bit is on the next page. After you finished, you should have chosen a side for each category. I end up with introvert, intuitive, feeling, or perceiver. Sometimes this is written as a short form as INFP. And a lot has been written about the Myers-Briggs test. Like it's a really, I don't know why they didn't name it. It's a really common test. It's got a lot of research behind it. And it can be fun to read about your type. Now, this is not an assignment. This part you can do for yourself. At this point, you could take a picture of everything, attach it, send it in to me, and you're all good. But having done all this, it is kind of fun to look at some of what's been written, I think anyways. So two different sites that I found was one called 16 Personalities. There was another one called Truity. I like the 16 Personalities one a little bit better. It's interesting to see how the different personality traits kind of gel together and create a common personality. And I also find it really interesting to change like one of your answers and see how that changes things. For example, I list as INFP. But what if I changed the P for perceiving and said I was more judging instead? How does that change my personality? Or if instead of saying I'm intuitive, no, sorry, an introvert, what if I said I was an extrovert? How does that change things? Because what's interesting is sometimes just changing one aspect really changes the personality. So here I'm going to kind of flip over just to kind of show you things. So this is the INFP. What's the A versus the T? I haven't seen that before. Oh, assertive mediator or a turbulent mediator. I'm not going to go into that because I didn't know what that was. Sorry. So they've named this as the mediator. A mediator is someone who possesses introverted, intuitive, feeling, and I wouldn't say perceiving traits. These rare personality types tend to be quiet, open-minded, and imaginative, and they apply a caring and creative approach to everything they do. And there's all sorts of stuff here on what they're strong at, what kind of jobs they do well. You can see here strengths and weaknesses. which is kind of interesting. You may find, oh, wow, that seems just exactly like me. Or you may find like, that doesn't sound exactly like me. And again, it's no big deal. It's just meant to be kind of interesting and fun. It is interesting sometimes, though, I think, to go back and play with them a little bit and see if you get one that sounds a little bit more like you. So it talks about friendships, parenthood, career paths. That kind of might be the part that interests us kind of the most here. Let's see. Oh, let's talk about things. Writers, oh, doesn't talk about it enough to me. Worlds of writing, music, drama, dance. So different kinds of things. Anyways, it's just one thing you can look at if you want to. You don't have to. Having said that, it might be helpful looking at some of that in terms of doing assignment number 5, which we're about to come up to. Hang on. Let me see here. Okay. Just a reminder, please hand it in. It's worth 10 marks. It's an easy 10 marks. So make sure you hand it in. Send it to student.work@naco.on.ca. Hang on. Make sure you include your first and last name, the course, and the assignment number, okay? Sorry, guys, my throat's acting up a lot here. Okay, read this to yourself for a second. I'm going to quickly point it. Okay, my apologies. So the previous 2 assignments were done to help you do this, okay? You've just spent some time thinking about the most important person in your life, you. Using what you've learned about yourself from the 2 surveys, your task is to write a journal entry, approximately 1/2 of a page long, about the type of person you are. Your responses will include details about what you've learned about yourself from each survey, as well as any other information you choose to include. You will also include a literacy goal you have for the course and a comment about how the 7 grandfather teachings may help you. A literacy goal is something you wish to accomplish. For example, with regards to writing skills, maybe you would like to be able to write better paragraphs or be able to write a good cover letter or resume. For reading, maybe you'd like to be able to write a chapter in a textbook and understand it. Use the assessment chart on the next page to guide your writing. You are to submit both a rough copy and a final copy of your journal entry. Okay. So, to clarify, your journal entry needs to include details you learned about yourself from the 2 surveys, a literacy goal, preferably one for reading and one for writing. We're going to talk more about in a minute. And comments on how the 7 grandfather teachings may help you reach your goals. Okay, so oh, these are the general rubric for a journal entry. We do a lot of journal entries throughout this course, and I use this same rubric for all the journal entries, okay? Keep in mind, the journal entries are also something we're going to look back at when we get to the end of the course and do the literacy portfolio. So some people kind of race through them, but you really don't want to. You want to take your time and do the best job you can with them because they're going to help you write your assignment number 43, which is kind of like our second last assignment. So spend some time really thinking about the journal questions so that you've got that information on hand to be able to help you to do that much larger assignment. So category 1 is just your understanding of the question content and ideas. The big one I look for here is, are you on topic? It's interesting. A lot of people don't read the question carefully, and they'll answer something that's kind of similar to what it asks, but not quite what it asks. So that's going to cost you marks. Do you give a detailed answer or just give me something kind of vague? Have you thought about the question in a meaningful way? Those are the big ones I'm looking for that category. Category 2 has 2 sections: focus on a particular angle or topic, and the ability to make connections between ideas and concepts. For the first part, focusing on a particular topic, oftentimes we narrow a topic further when we approach it from our own personal perspective, and that's fine. It's still on topic. It's just a smaller section that you may focus in on. And are you able to connect your ideas and your opinions to the main concept at hand? There's a lot of overlap there, clearly. Last category is where we're looking at how you organize your stuff, and really big focus on conventions, spelling, grammar, punctuation, usage, and capitalization. That's what I'm really looking for in that category. Now, this is the lesson 1 mark sheet. I am showing it to you because it is your unit, but I have to be honest, I find the top misleading. It does not match up to the Ontario standards, and I don't actually use this. But you have it. You can certainly use them to record your own marks if you want to. It's pretty easy to figure out your percentage. Let's say I give you an assignment back and you've got 7 out of 10. 7 divided by 10 equals 0.70. 0.70 multiplied by 100 equals 70. And then you would just add the percent sign and you've got 70%, and then you would enter it there. Remember that as long as you get 50%, it's a pass. Now, it depends why you're taking this course. Some people are taking this course just because they want to get finished high school and then be done. Some people are taking the course because you're planning to finish high school and go on to college or university. If you're planning to go on, then obviously you want to get higher marks because the university looks at your marks, and so does the college. If you're not worried about going on, then what exact mark you get is less important as long as you pass. Okay, I just wanted to comment on why we have the learning journals throughout the course, because a lot of times people kind of seem confused by them a little bit. First, it's a curriculum requirement. The government demands that in this course, students keep a learning journal that documents their steps that they've taken to self-monitor their learning. Second, each journal topic gives you a chance to express your opinion on what we've studied and on your work. And third, it's really intended to give you ownership of your learning and develop the ability to evaluate your own skills and progress. Because obviously, throughout your life, you're going to develop your own goals, whether they're literacy goals or other types of goals. And we're doing this because we're partners in the learning process. I want to make you sure you understand that this assignment is not simply busy work. It's to encourage the process and practice of self-reflection. Even after you leave school, you may still find that you have literacy goals. I know I still do, and I have been working in the field of teaching in English for a really long time, but I still have goals. There's still things I'm working on trying to get better at. Now, sometimes when I talk to people, they actually do have goals. They're just worried that their goals aren't, I don't know, official enough or nice enough or something, and they're afraid to write them. Okay. So let's talk about that. As long as you're not swearing, I'm fine with what you write, right? What is your real purpose in doing the course? Everybody's got this. Nobody is taking this course for no reason, right? It's not a course that you would take just for fun. Let's be realistic. But thinking about it may reveal your real goal, whether you think it counts or not. So some examples of your real goals might be, I want to read and write well enough to pass this course because once I finish this, I can get my high school diploma. I know I have students out there who this is their last course, and once they're finished this, they're done. That's fine. I don't like how my writing sounds and I want to improve it so it says what I want it to say. Also fine. Timed tests make me nervous, so I'd rather do the reading and writing in this course at my own pace over taking the Ontario literacy test. Also, just fine. I'm hoping to go on to college after high school, so I want to make sure my reading and writing skills are good enough to be successful at college. Yep. My job is requiring more writing than I expected, and I want it to sound more polished and professional. And that can be a big thing. Like a lot of times you might do a job that, for example, I've known people that did jobs like cultural activities coordinator, and it's mostly like outdoor stuff, and they're doing outdoor activities with kids, but they're still having to write reports on what they're doing, or they're still having to create like a poster so that parents know what they're doing. And they didn't really realize that was going to be a part of the job. So that may have happened with you, where you've got to kind of like suddenly do a little more writing than you expected, and you want the practice. And that's fine too. This is assignment 3. You can use this to help you set some literacy goals, like especially for written. Maybe you felt like, I don't know, using words effectively is really important, but you don't feel like you do it very well. Well, that becomes a literacy goal, right? Oral communication skills. We don't really deal a lot with oral communication skills a lot in this course, I don't think. I think diversity skills come up everywhere. And obviously electronic communication skills will come up. So because I was worried about this, I think it's kind of, for some people, they haven't really thought about literacy skills before, and they just kind of aren't quite sure what to write here. So I spent some time kind of thinking about what are some possible literacy skills. And again, you wouldn't have all of these. That would be horribly overwhelming. And some things you might be great at. You don't need those things. So keep in mind, it should be something that you actually really are going to be working on throughout the course. For your journal, some possible literacy skills to reflect on might be, sentence variety. I can see I grabbed this from something else. Sentence variety. Maybe I want to work on that. Maybe I want to make sure I'm always using a subject and predicate. Maybe I want to work on run-on sentences. Maybe I want to work on editing more consistently. So this is actually one that I forgot. This is a slide I borrowed from down the road where we're reflecting on whether we've met the goals. So these are some possible goals, right? Am I using punctuation correctly? Am I good at using a paragraph structure? Am I able to write as long as I need to for each assignment? Have I got the ability to write in different formats? You might not have that ability now, but by the end of this course, I guarantee you we will, because we do so much writing. Are you aware of your audience and your purpose? Are you aware of how to use tone, style, and form? How comfortable are you using the different stages of the writing process? That's a huge part of this course as well. So if you're not now, that might make a great goal. Possible reading goals. I feel like this is even harder because a lot of times, most people who are in this course, obviously you already can read or you wouldn't be taking the course, but it's like, what are some specific skills? So beyond recognizing words, which is kind of like the elementary school level, there's a lot of thinking skills that go into reading. So that's the kind of goals we're talking about, right? Understanding how to use different thinking strategies, such as activating your background knowledge, right? If you're reading a news article about war, you may need to spend some time thinking about what you know about war so that the article makes sense. Making predictions about plot, events, character actions, and choices. Making connections between the text, myself, other texts, and the world around me. Prioritizing information. If you're looking at, again, like a news story, what's the most important thing? What's the key things that they want you to take away from there? Retelling a story. Summarizing a story. Asking questions before, during, and after a text. Inferring or reading between the lines. Using context clues. Visualizing. Monitoring yourself to make sure you understand. Those are all strategies we practice during this course. A lot of it comes up in lesson 2 and 3. Reading skills. This is more like an ability, something specific that you can do with what you've read. So being able to find the main idea and details, being able to identify and explain a theme, describing a character with support from the text, comparing and contrasting two characters or two events or two texts, identifying the major plot points in a story, identifying the major literary elements in a story, describing the beginning or the ending, giving your opinion on a character's personality, actions, or motivations, giving your opinion on a book based on various elements in the book. Some other possible reading goals might be knowing more about certain kind of text formats, knowing how to read, recognize, or identify specific features in formats like novels, newsletters, opinions, editorials, business letters, resumes, textbooks, informational text, short stories, poetry, and song lyrics. The literary elements are things like characters, setting, plot, types of conflict, problem solution, beginning, middle, and ending, dialogue. Maybe you want to make a goal about literary elements. Some other more general goals might be things like improving your reading speed, increasing your vocabulary, reading a wider range of formats or topics, or maybe even just feeling more confident in your understanding what you're reading. Also, work-related reading goals, because we do cover some work stuff here. Being able to understand and fill out application forms, understand and act on different business documents, reading informational text at work, such as health and safety procedures, employee handbooks, new technical information, being able to understand important documents that we just get in life, things like wills or powers of attorney or legal notices, insurance documents, mortgage or loan agreements, being able to understand formal work emails or letters and responding to them appropriately. Also, when we're reading, writers have a lot of different craft techniques that they use to achieve different effects. And sometimes some of those are tricky. So it's possible that some of these are things that you find hard to work with or understand. And maybe you want to pick some of these things like description, exposition, flashbacks, dialogue, switching points of view, unreliable characters or narrators, varying the passage of time between or within chapters, foreshadowing, symbolism, cliffhangers, stereotypes, using common genre elements, and implying certain actions or emotions rather than spelling them out. So I spent a bit of time on that because I think it's kind of a hard spot. So brainstorming your journal. You have to have these three elements. So in the yellow, you can see, what did you learn from the quizzes? In the middle, what are some possible reading or writing goals? And then finally, what are some ways that the grandfather teachings may help me? And if I don't set those out, I might forget to include some of those in my journal. So I'm going to write them down and maybe I think of some things. What did I learn? Well, I'm intuitive, feeling. What are some possible reading or writing goals? Maybe I'm going to pick understanding literary elements or writing in different formats. You're going to make some sort of notes here that you've got to use, that are available for you to use as you write your rough draft. After you spend a bunch of time brainstorming, you can begin to look at your rough draft and start tying it all together. Remember that notes can be turned into a sentence very simply or more complexly. So let's say I've got a note saying, understand literary elements better. I could turn that into a very basic sentence by just saying, my reading goal is to understand literary elements better. Or I could try and make a more complex sentence like, after reviewing different reading goals and thinking about what I find tricky, I decided to make understanding literary elements better my main reading goal. So you can go very simple, you can go more complex. Turning your jot notes into simple or compound sentences can sometimes be a challenge. I'm going to come back to this because I'm running a little bit short on time. Here is a sample rough draft. And I'm going to quickly check and see what else I've got. Make sure you take a picture of your rough draft when you get there. Keep one good copy and then mark up the other copy. You can send me that. Either one is fine. Be sure to check spelling, punctuation, make everything you want, turn it into a good copy, and then give me the good copy. But I need both. You lose at least half your marks if you don't hand me in both. What do you check for? Things like, does it make sense? Have I duplicated small words? Have I left off some small words? Is it a bit vague? Should I add some details? Have I repeated myself? Did I answer the questions? Did I stay on topic? Is it long enough? Oh, that's my rough draft. Okay. After you feel like the content of your rough draft is pretty good, it's time to check the structure or grammar. Do my sentences follow good sentence structure? Have I used punctuation correctly? Have I checked my spelling? Have I remembered to check for capitalization? Once you feel you've done the very best you can, then go ahead and hand it in. And at that point, you'll have finished all the lessons. I'm going to go back now, take a minute or two to practice these. So take a moment to read those. Okay. So here are my notes. Appear cool and reserved, honest and direct, good at seeing flaws, avoiding arguments. And I want to turn that into a sentence, okay? I realized, hang on, why does it look funny? I realized that I am more of a thinker when I make decisions. Lots of people have commented that I seem reserved or maybe even stuck up. See, I'm adding some of my own words here. I feel like I am just honest and I am good at seeing what is wrong. However, I still try and avoid arguments. So you can see I turned those into sentences, right? I'm the subject. So a lot of times it's going to be I, but I could use things like my thoughts are, or my opinion is, or I feel that, right? And I can join two simple sentences into a longer sentence like I did here. I can add a little introductory material to this one. I can do it any way I need to. Possible literacy goals. Okay, so I've got use reading strategies, reading skills, and then I've got for writing, revising skills or editing skills. So I could easily write something like, I had a hard time thinking about what would be a good reading goal, but finally decided on using different reading strategies because I felt like I didn't understand them. In the area of writing, I think I will focus on my revising skills. I am interested in learning ways to make my writing stronger. Okay. So a lot of times people look at just the word or two and they can't quite figure out how to turn it into a sentence, right? Remember, it's just a note. You don't have to use it word for word. It's just an idea. You're going to kind of think about how you can expand on that idea to make a proper sentence. Here, just before we go, here is our rough draft. Now, this has mistakes. I deliberately have mistakes in it, okay? And later on, we'll have some time, we don't today, on how to review it, okay? It has been interesting reflecting on who I am. Lots of people might think I was an extrovert, but at heart, I am an introvert and very shy. I tend to make decisions based on my feelings rather than logic. I also kind of rely on my intuition more than my senses. If I meet someone, I won't remember what they wore, but I will remember that they seemed anxious when we talked about school. I also lean towards perceiving. I wish I could be more firm and be strong in judging, but it seems like I always see the other side of an argument. My literacy goal is to become more comfortable reading a wider range of formats. I mostly read Hoarder right now, but I want to start trying different types of books. Maybe I will try mysteries or action adventures. My other literacy goal is to start adding more details when I write. I think the grandfather teaching that can help me most is humility. Sometimes it's hard to admit that I need help or that I'm not good at doing something. So I've covered all three topics. I haven't really written very much about the grandfather teaching. I might want to add a little bit on that, but I've got the three topics. If you skip a topic, it's going to lower your marks. So I hope this was helpful. This was for assignments 3, 4, and 5. Please do your best. And tomorrow we will meet again and work on assignment 6 and assignment 7. Thank you, and hope you guys have a good day.